each other knowing it, is the Hollingsworth and Ybarra text, which is virtually a script. Most people will be familiar with it. Some refer to it as the Purple Bible because of how scripted it is. And from there, I kind of subtly started dropping about 6-7 copies to varying people around the staff and on the desk. And we've actually had a couple of people really run with this now because they were keen, they'd seen, they'd read certain things, but they didn't know how. They didn't know how to get into it. And this provided them a framework and a way to start. And now we're starting to see some teachers experiment with varying aspects of this. Okay, we've got one science teacher in particular who's trying to go the whole hog with it. But in building these lessons from scratch, that's a lot of work around that. So we're at that stage in that.
Okay. I think I've probably already covered that fact that this is the direction, research-informed evidence, knowledge-rich curriculum. So we've done that.
Yeah, and I think I've done this too, and I've talked about that. As I said, the Knowledge Society and that Leadership Accelerator, it gave me an understanding of that landscape and who the key voices were. Some of these, Tim McDonald, who just presented downstairs, he's working with us currently with the Classroom Mastery program. He was out at TGS all day yesterday and he will return next term. And we're running through the entry routine.
Entry, exit
and cue to start. And we're trying to grammarise the cues to start with, blue and gold and other things that more creative people can come up with than me. Within that, but we've seen a need for calm and orderly classrooms.
Yeah. When we had the Knowledge Society out with the leadership team and last term to start helping us plan our rollout on that as well as leadership, we had a couple of teachers from the junior school, a couple of teachers from the senior school and representatives of the leadership. And the thing that came out so strongly that every single person was crying out for was behaviour management control as the starting point. Everyone's saying there's no point doing this because of these kids who keep disrupting. And in terms of low-hanging fruit, the easiest way to start getting control and getting the teaching time back so that we could implement explicit instruction is about starting with this classroom mastery. So that the teachers asked, the representative teachers on that committee asked that be our first point of attack.
Lorraine Hammond, we had presented at St Margaret's last year, and I took down a couple of staff members who traditionally wouldn't be the types that would probably attend professional learning, and they were blown away by it. And from that, she's been important too. I tried to get her back out over here. Western Australia is so far away; it's very, very difficult. But just sending her YouTube clips where she outlines what explicit instruction is to people that have been interested, and then being able to see it in action has been really important. And it's a little bit like the Loch Ness Monster. You've got to see it to believe it. And once you see someone teaching this way, you see how powerful it is, and it all kind of makes sense. Why are the students learning so much more effectively and efficiently? And when you do see it in action, you see a daily review done really well. You see checking for understanding done really well. You see the chunking. It is a game changer with it. And as a result of that, we have Tony Hatton-Roberts, who works for an organisation called Coglearn. She is coming out now to work with groups of our staff to immerse them intensively in explicit instruction. We have our first group of 8 starting next term. And hopefully we get 3 groups through over a couple of years, and then we can sustain that upskilling ourselves. So we're trying to really get some champions out amongst our staff, and we've been very specific in who we've chosen. We just don't want heads of department, we want people who are teaching. And we're trying to aim at, firstly at the lower secondary, and then moving another group through with our lower junior school within that. All right. I've spoken a little bit about this. Our PD time that we have allocated, it has been a challenge, our access to our staff. We only have 2 hours scheduled a term, which is slowly changing. Our staff are going to be confronted with 6 hours of PD day 1 of term 4, which is a massive, that's nearly a whole year for them in one hit that they traditionally have when Tim terms up. But all of our PD now has to align to the science of learning. And we're beginning to build enough internal expertise where we can run kind of micro sessions where our staff are actually presenting elements of this to help achieve that buy-in with it. We've just done something, a very small session on cognitive load session. They then went into something on retrieval practice. Next term in that 2 hours, our sole focus is going to be daily review. And then we have a group presentation and they'll break away into departments and they'll actually practice the daily review and going through. And we're just trying to drip feed that, and all of those sessions will be helped run by our champions that are being intensively trained by Coglearn. Some of our challenges moving forward are new staff induction. And while we're upskilling all of our staff, because we know university hasn't prepared them for this, and I went through UQ in the early 2000s, I knew nothing of explicit instruction or cognitive science, I don't even think it was mentioned. The challenge now is how do we, the people we bring in, how do we get them up to speed of where we're at? Hopefully in time the universities will catch up, but we're being optimistic if we think things are going to change overnight. Eventually we're going to get to a point where we have a teaching and learning handbook where all of what's been written that we find of use for this we can store in that way area as well.
I'll just quickly talk to PLD. I mentioned earlier the fact that we are very much going down a whole school pathway. Now, when the Knowledge Society came out and had that one-day workshop with us, and we were looking at the processes that we have in place, the junior school representatives, new head of junior school, new deputy head teaching and learning in the junior school, and we've got some real literacy issues. So we've got our NAPLAN data in the junior school is not brilliant, and then come year 7, we get 30% of our boys coming in from regional and remote areas with significant gaps, some of them in their learning, and some real literacy concerns. Now, while PLD, the phonics program, is not necessarily the one promoted by the Knowledge Society, they did look at our processes and see that PLD has all the aspects that we need for a good phonics program. It was already in the junior school, but not being taught with integrity or consistency. So it had been in there for however many years, and it was very ad hoc in how it was being used, and it was only being used in those lower year levels. It was not going through to year 6. So with the new head of leadership in the junior school, that PLD program is now implemented PD6 in their literacy blocks every single morning, and our learning support teachers from the senior school have gone down and they are upskilling in that program as well, so that when we get our new cohort of year 7s coming through next year and we identify those boys who are possibly tier 2 or possibly tier 3 interventions in terms of their literacy, we will have a consistent program that the boys who've come up from the junior school are familiar with, but our new students can also engage with.
Just adding to that, we've now introduced testing in every off NAPLAN year, which we can map to the NAPLAN band.
2, 4, 6.
Yeah. 4, 6, 8 and 10. Yeah, 4, 6, 8, 10, with the ability to take it all the way down to 2. We do that through AAS, which is the old Rawle. Some of you might be familiar with that. And over time, we'll be able to really evaluate the success of this program, but it also gives us the ability to have a look at a student's learning growth from the time they sit NAPLAN in year 3 all the way to 10. And hopefully when we get the data into the hands of teachers and heads of house, and heads of department. It's really going to inform their understanding of that student and their capabilities, as well as allowing us to be a lot more proactive in our academic care for them. Around that classroom master we've already spoken about with Tim. We have that kicking off very soon, response intervention.
We started, we really formalised our learning support program through the response to intervention framework this year. Again, whole school approach, so P to 12. Hand on heart, we're still under-resourced in the learning support area, but that's something that as we build the capacity not only of our learning support teachers and teacher aides, but our teachers to work with the learning support staff so that they are better empowered to support their students and be able to work more closely. Prior to really formalising this program, teachers expected learning support teachers to either take kids away and fix them, or sit there beside them in class and write notes and help them with whatever was going on. We hadn't had that formalised program. So in supporting all the other literacy work, we're really focusing on the foundations for all students. P to 8 really is probably as far as most of that goes, so that we can get that literacy right, so that everything else should work well. And
we've identified a gap in that senior school teachers don't understand how to teach students how to read. They're not trained in that. I didn't have an understanding of that, and as part of that we are going to bring in some PD with some experts around the science of reading, just so everyone gets a basic understanding of that, and we have that coming up next year, as well as the primary reading program, which is just instructional implications based upon the science of reading, and that will be targeted in conjunction with the work we're doing in PLD on just getting a deeper appreciation of the science behind how students learn how to read. Lastly, professional learning, as I said, it's all aligning. The road ahead, I'm trying to introduce something called learning snacks. I'm actually trying to push it out of lunchtime into assembly time, where we have, I don't believe 80 staff sitting there watching assembly is an effective use of time. And I'd like to take 5 to 10 of them away to work on just a formative assessment technique a couple of times a term. And most of that I'm going to pull from either Doug Lemoff's work, which are the really quick, easy things I can do in 20 minutes, or from some Peps McRae's texts there, around there. Hopefully that is coming up next year. Instructional coaching is where we want to get to. We've got a long way to go, but the idea, not a trial group, sorry I didn't change that before, we picked that up, is we're considering Step Lab as an option, and it's working out what would a trial in that look like, and then how do we immerse our staff within it. I know Prince Alfred in Adelaide is about to run about 20 teachers through it later in the year, so we're looking at that closely and talking to them about their experience with that. All right.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Really just the journey we've been on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any suggestions I will take as well, because we are still designing our journey on the way forward. So, thank you.
Just for you, Step Lab.
Good.
Yeah, so Jack's my hod, and I'm just my second year, so it's part of the process of supporting teachers who are new to the school. It's pretty painless, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's early days with Step Lab and instructional coaching too. I think we've got it's about 5 or 6 coaches here as teachers, who are on that journey. That's part of their responsibility and work with that. For a sort of an intensive term, a term with a coach and a staff member, and a bit of a collaboration with the HOD and collecting those data points. And Step Lab, I think, is working relatively well, but still, unless you're involved in that, it's still most people aren't quite aware of it. But I think it has certainly positive outlook for it.
How long have you had it for?
Step Lab only this year.
Yeah.
So I think we, I think only really got on board with that sort of last year, and it's only been rolled out and actually used as part of a teacher review practice and coaching model this year. Yeah, there's people, I'm not sure if there's anybody else here who know more than me about it. Our coach is here, and Steve Taylor.
Yeah.
He leads that one here.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, we use Grove Coaching
Yep.
International, so we have quite a few key staff members training at the different levels. And then we also have learning coaches embedded within the primary school still, the high school.
We're moving more to instructional coaching now, but yeah, we've still got the growth coaching as an option, but I think for our primary space, we've just seen the benefit of instructional coaching, so I think...
Yeah, it's very much where we want to get to. When I arrived at the school, observation was foreign to them. It's probably a nice way to put it. If you walked into a classroom, the teacher would probably die behind a desk. And we've redesigned our classroom spaces. They're all transparent, kind of like most schools are going, which has really helped in that others seeing their practice. And we're trying to normalise that now. We've got a growth and development framework that has observations built into that. So for us, coaching is the obvious next step. We probably need to adjust our timetable a little bit to enable that. Ideally, I'd love professional learning embedded into the teacher's load, and then, once a cycle, instead of these one and done events, that it is embedded into their load, that we can form maybe a group or a professional learning community and have coaching going on. But there's a lot of structural issues in the way with that at the moment, but over time, hopefully that's our journey, and Step Lab would complement that really well.
I can add to it. I mean, a bit biased because Ollie Long works with us.
Yeah,
and he's part of Step Lab and stuff. But it's pretty good. We've had instructional coaching for a long time. I'd also just say, we just as a little taster of structural PL stuff, we have a Thursday morning is actually when we run our professional learning. It's 8 till 9, just in terms of sometimes that's unusual for other schools, and it's weekly. So if you're thinking about learning time or anything like that, or running more frequent professional learning, that's what we build in, and the kids don't mind a late start once a week.
So they actually come in late?
They come in at 9, yeah. Often there's training, they run footy training or something, it's okay once a week, yeah, we still have the same length classes.
Yeah, it's something. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.